Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Caroline Heward and I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert. Today's show is Talking Heads and I'm an expert presenter in today's topic, which is effects of living in a sexless relationship, which is part of the Mind and Body Connection series. Let's begin. I'd like to start off with a quote from Chester Brown. When you're in a relationship, the dynamic seems to change over time. I only had 2 long-term girlfriends, but with both of them, as time went on, the sex tapered off in terms of frequency. We had sex less and less often, and talking with friends or whatever, hearing other people's stories, that seems to be the case with a lot of romantic relationships. Chester Brown. I feel this quote really sets the scene of the exploration that we're going to do today. Richard Cooper says, remove sex from a relationship and you will discover that 90% of women have nothing to offer men in relationships. Well, conversely, remove money from a relationship and you will learn that 90% of women won't see a reason to be in said relationship. I will leave it there because this can be the comments and the feedback of some men, and we'll explore further. So let's look at some of what could be the root causes of being in a sexless relationship. It could be that there's been a change in health for the person, either partner. It could be that there's been a health condition such as cancer, or it could be arthritis, or something that's causing them a lot of pain. It could be that there's been a miscarriage for the woman. So there's many different reasons. It could be a liver dysfunction. It could be all sorts of things in terms of the physical health that will prevent the person from being able to be in a fully healthy, intimate physical relationship. And in that health situation, also medication can be a factor of a reduced libido. Certain medications are known to reduce the libido interest in intimacy. And so this is also very important to bear in mind. If the person, either partner or both, are going through any life changes, and by life changes, I mean if there's a change of job, a change of career, if there's a home move, if there's a change of direction in terms of moving from an employed business to a self-employed business, and also if there's an unemployment part in that relationship in terms of their work. Also, it could be that there's a change in the family dynamic. There could be a bereavement on either side of the relationship, or sibling, the parents, or very close friend. So bereavement, grief can actually affect a relationship. and turn the feeling off, literally turn the connection to the sexual energy completely off. Communication is a key fundamental thing, and I'm going to call it a thing because it's something that goes awry very quickly when there's a sexless relationship, because nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to say something's not right. And when they do say, there's a challenge in terms of an upset, when the other person will feel that they're not performing, or either partner is feeling uncomfortable about the lack of intimacy, or indeed the requirement for more, but not feeling like they want to. And even though it's a very tricky subject, and it is tricky because it's about timing, it's important to make sure that you're not trying to have this conversation with your partner when they're in the fridge looking for something to eat, or they're preparing their day, or they're preparing their night for a switch off, or preparing a project, but doing something else, cooking dinner. If you're doing something else, it's very difficult to be fully present and communicate some of the issues about what's not working in the relationship as far as the intimacy is concerned. And so it's important that you choose a time and to be in your honesty, to have an open dialogue in your communication with each other. It's very difficult when you're blaming, when you're in communication with the other person, when you step into a place of blaming, you're not doing this, you're not looking at me, you're not finding me sexy, you're not finding me attractive. And when you're going into that blame game, then the other person is on the back foot and doesn't feel comfortable and will retreat. It is much kinder to say, to be situation focused rather than blaming the person, to be looking at the situation of the lack of intimacy rather than the person, and actually express your concerns about not being happy about the lack of intimacy in the relationship without blame. And if there is something that you will prefer, a time, a day, to actually communicate that and make sure that you have that very, very challenging and yet it will be rewarding conversation about the lack of intimacy in your relationship by choosing a time that's right for you and your partner. Routine can have an immense impact on a sexless relationship because you can get so caught up in the what to do and what you're doing and getting the kids ready for bed, getting the kids tea, dinner, breakfast sorted out, taking the children to school. Some of the routines, just literally working around each other in terms of sorting out your daily work activities and domesticity. And when you've been in a relationship for a long time, it's really easy to step into a state of routine. And that routine makes it difficult then to be spontaneous. And so it's important to break the routine and to decide to change and make space for your intimacy within your relationship. When there is a lack of intimacy, and specifically a lack of sex, it can lead to a state of depression, to a state where the person doesn't feel attractive. It can affect their self-esteem, their self-confidence. It can affect the way that they feel about themselves. I have heard the term becoming or feeling asexual. So like an amoeba, where there is no interest because there is a shutdown in the feelings and emotions. And how depression comes about is that when you shut down the feelings and emotions because it's difficult, and that's where the sexual energy resides, in the lower belly, below the belly button. This is where the sexual energy is. And when you shut down the feelings and emotions, because it's difficult, it's challenging, there's been something that's been going on that's difficult, and the emotions and feelings get shut down, the escape route is the mind. And when you're in the mind, there's either stress, anxiety, depression. And so this can lead to a state of stress, anxiety performance, and a state of depression, looking at what was but is no longer, and almost feeling desolate, isolated in the situation of not being able to move forward. And this state of depression will affect your entire being in every aspect of your life, whether you're working, in social life, or in your personal life. And when one or both, or either or, are in a state of depression, it's very difficult for the other person to reach them, because that state of depression is a shut off. It's where the body literally shuts down and isn't open for intimacy. Intimacy begins with the sexual energy. It begins with the spark. And so when the depression sets in, the escape route is the mind. And then there is no experience of feeling in any aspect of your life. And so that everything will feel like it's difficult. Here's some more root causes. There could be a hormonal change, for instance, menopause for the women. For men, it could be that there's a change in their hormones due to a lower testosterone. It could be that there's been an illness that's affected the hormonal level, and there might be a libido issue, or it could even be the fact that the person has had an illness that has caused an imbalance in the hormones. It could be that stress will affect the hormones and create an imbalance, or depression will create a hormonal imbalance, or any illnesses such as cancer or motor neurone diseases that will affect the libido. And so in this space of changes in the hormones, this will make you feel less than wanting to experience intimacy. This will make the person feel less comfortable because they're not feeling their sexiness. They're not feeling the desire, the pleasure to go into that intimacy with their partner. And just moving into libido issues for men, when there is performance issues, that might be that they will be so in the mind, so stressed that they're worried about their performance because it's not that often. And so there will be some strain and some stress on performing. And so for some men, there is where they will be in premature ejaculation. So they get so worked up about their performance that it's over within 2 minutes or less. Or for some people, that they can just keep going, but they feel nothing. And the reason for that is that this is called delayed ejaculation for men, and that is that they're constantly trying. So, and they're not feeling any sensation of sensitivity of pleasure. That's the pleasure that they desire to feel. And the reason for that is that they've escaped into the mind. They've shut down the feelings and the emotions, and the escape route is the mind. And so there's a disconnect between the body and the mind. And so they're living in their thoughts, they're living in the conversation, the analytical debate, and the internal dialogue, rather than in the experience of the sensory of the body. That can happen for women as well, where the libido is just literally not there. They don't, the words might be, they don't feel like it. And so the libido, the intensity for desire for pleasure is literally gone. And it's not just in the bedroom, it will be everywhere. It'll be whether they're eating, shopping, cooking, walking the dog, watching a movie. It'll be that everything that they're doing is focused internally in the internal conversation. that they're having and the internal dialogue, rather than the sensitivity of the experience of these senses within the body. Now, looking at this lack of sensitivity and literally a disconnect, you'll feel almost cut off, like you're on autopilot. So you're going through the motions without the emotion. Now, in the sexual chakra, which is the second chakra called the sacral energy, this chakra is related to water. The element associated with the sexual energy is water, so flow. And so you'll almost feel a bit stuck, as if you're putting 1 foot forward and 2 steps backwards, 2 steps forward, 4 steps backward. So it'll just feel in life, it'll be like you're walking through treacle. So this just won't be in the bedroom. This will feel like it everywhere. And it will feel difficult to enjoy any experiences because the sexual energy is shut down. And when this situation happens, both partners or one or the other can actually be comfortable as a pause for a short period of time. But when there's prolonged periods of time, it can be very challenging to manage to find a route or a roadmap back into intimacy and a meaningful sexual relationship. And this can then lead to a situation where there becomes an infidelity, where one or the other partner feels that they need that intimate relationship, they need the physical relationship, and they can't cope in that sexless relationship anymore. And so sometimes they work out a series of conversations in their mind that, well, they're not cheating on their partner because there is no intimacy within the relationship. There is no sex in the relationship. So therefore, it's completely okay to have a sexual relationship with somebody where there's no feelings. I'm sure this is a very common reason. It meant nothing. It was just sex. And this can happen when there is a sexless relationship. And this can create a huge challenge in terms of being able to go back into the intimacy, because once there is infidelity, for some people, there is no road back. For others, there is a way to keep trying to move forward and pushing past the infidelity. And for some, it just never happens. There's never a road back. And so it's important when there is an infidelity in the relationship to converse about it, to speak your truth, to tell each other in open and honest communication how you feel. Is there a road back? Because if there isn't a road back, there needs to be an honest conversation on both sides. The infidelity could be the reason that there is a sexless relationship. So if there has been an infidelity that has happened and then the relationship becomes sexless, it can be caused the other way round. And it's important to weigh up whether you want to stay in the relationship if there has been an infidelity on either part. And I would say that it's not easy for the person that has cheated as well as the person that has been cheated upon. There is no right or wrong. There is only what has happened. And so it's important to accept what has happened in order to be able to move forward. And if there is no acceptance of what's happened, then that's where communication gets tampered with and gets stuck. And if you're not speaking to each other and communicating what you feel, good, bad, or indifferent, or a way that you can go forward, there is no going forward, and it becomes very challenging for some, for months, for years, and for decades. So it's very important at this point to talk, to listen, and to have an open dialogue in your communication without blame, understanding, because if you're looking to move forward after the infidelity, it's important that you don't keep going back to blame about the infidelity. If you're going to go forward, it's important to find a space where both of you are happy to move forward. Mental health is one of the top causes of a sexless relationship. And mental health can be depression, anxiety, it can be stress, it can be all manner of panic, fear, it can be trauma. And so mental health issues, it's not just mental health in one aspect where you are taking antidepressants. It can be as much as or as little as moving into a place of anxiety, depression, stress, everyday stress. If you've had a difficult day at work, a difficult day with your colleagues or with family, it's very difficult then to feel the spark of wanting to be in a physical, intimate relationship. But mental health very much is dismissed because lots of people just put it onto one side and expect there to be the interaction physically, intimately. But when somebody is suffering with anxiety, depression, it's very, very challenging to move into that state of physical intimacy because they're just not there. They're just not physically connected to the body. So there is a feeling of nothing, a feeling of no pleasure, of no sensitivity, just what's going round in their mind. And this is where the challenges lie in terms of the other person that isn't suffering with mental health issues, because they're usually asking the question, what's wrong with me? And it puts the onus on the person that isn't suffering, and then they start to question, and it lowers self-esteem, self-confidence, and it changes the dynamic of the relationship. And so it's important to have an open dialogue when there is any of these types of issues. Fidelity. Here's a quote from Esther Perel. Eventually, if desire withers, monogamy too easily slides downward into celibacy. When this happens, fidelity becomes a weakness rather than a virtue. So here we're talking about celibacy, and there certainly are many couples that choose this route within a relationship. And I certainly have known of many, many couples, certainly in the older generation, where they stayed together, for 40, 50, 60 years, that there became a place where the physical intimacy disappeared and the friendship came in, and they became greater friends and moved the relationships into celibacy. There's nothing wrong with that if both parties within the relationship are happy in that experience of the relationship. It's only causing a problem if one or the other person isn't happy in a state of celibacy. Let's look at some more root causes. Unmatched libido. So it could be that the woman is very highly, has a very high libido and wants to have physical sex every night or 3 times a night. It could be that the man in the relationship or the masculine energy wants sex every night or 3 times a night, and the other person doesn't, and maybe once a week is okay for them. So this can move into a place where there is no physical intimacy, no sexual interaction, because there's an unmatched libido and one or the other of the partners just can't work out which it is in terms of moving forward in that sexual relationship. And so if somebody's wanting to have physical sex 3 times a week, and the other person is probably happy with once a month or once a week, that can be creating a lot of challenges within the relationship and can very much lead to a sexless relationship because of never matching the time that's right for both people within the relationship. So some people step into emotional affairs, and what I mean by that is they'll have an intimate relationship with someone without having the intimacy physically. So there'll be all the emotions, and it is possible to have an emotional affair with someone without having sex. And then all of your intimacy is focused on that person because there is the desire, there is the conversation, and there is the feeling without the physical interaction. So when you're in an emotional affair, you can actually be doing everything apart from physically having sex. But this is almost the same as cheating on a different level, because it's the emotion that keeps the relationship ticking. And it's the emotion that moves. It's the glue that moves a relationship from friendship to emotional relationship to intimate relationship. And so you could be having an emotional affair with a friend, with a colleague, but not actually having sex. But still, you could be sexting, so you could be in conversation by text with someone, and it releases all the same endorphins as if it's physical, but you're just not in that physical relationship intimately with that other person. But the emotions are where it matters. The emotions are where it can take you to change the way that you are feeling about the partner that you're in a sexless relationship with. Sexual trauma, if one or the other of the partners within the relationship has had sexual trauma, so being raped, being abused physically, sexually by an elder peer within their childhood, this will create a trauma. And what happens with a sexual trauma is that they shut down the sexual energy at that time when they were very young to protect themselves so they didn't get hurt. And when they shut down the sexual energy, it's for protection. We don't think about it. We don't decide. We don't say, right, that's it, I'm going to shut down. It simply happens as the body is protecting itself. And then in that shutdown, the person is going into other physical relationships, and then it doesn't work because they're shut down. And so they're in their mind, in their conversation, and feeling a huge disconnection within themselves as well as in the relationship itself. And when they're feeling that disconnection in themselves, it's very difficult to find the connection with someone else. And so usually when somebody has had a sexual trauma, they are looking for the other person. They're looking for something from the other person to make them feel something. But with sexual trauma, it's important for the person to heal themselves internally so that they feel different internally, so that they can experience externally with someone else. And where I'm going with this is it's no good looking for someone to fix you. It's important to give you something, to make you feel something. It's important to feel the intensity of sexual desire and pleasure internally for yourself, and then externally in a relationship you'll be so much more and give so much more to the other person. When you feel okay, then you will attract someone into your life that will be the same match for you, that will be in alignment with being as open as you are. Feeling alone. When you are feeling alone within a relationship, so it might be that one or the other partner is very busy working, that doesn't have the time, that doesn't have the space to be in that relationship emotionally with you. So it's physical as in the day-to-day, the routine, but then when you're getting into bed, you're so tired that there is no room for a physical sexual relationship because the bedroom has become the sleep room. And this can make the bedroom feel very, very lonely if you're sharing it with someone. And there's usually, for some people, like a tram line in the middle of the bed because they're not feeling the intensity of relationship that they want to feel with the other person. So can it survive when there is this tram line in the middle of the bed? Can it survive when you're looking at each other and not looking at each other? And the bedroom is for sleep, and yet you really want it to be for something else, for a more intimate experience, and yet it's not happening. So where do you go from here? Talking to each other. That's the first start. To speak, to express how you're really feeling. Because it might be that one or the other partner feels it's not working and it's over. And this is the point of truth, because some people stay in these kinds of relationships for years and years because it's become a habit, because they can't be without each other and they can't be with each other. And so it's important to start an honest and comfortable dialogue. A conversation is where it begins, because if in that conversation you can start to say how you're feeling, because sometimes it can get lost. You don't know what the other person is feeling or thinking, and it might be that they're feeling just the same as you are. And so it's important to have that feeling of being comfortable, to have that open, honest communication. Reigniting the spark. Communication is the first step to reigniting the spark. You can do this in so many ways to move forward from being ignoring each other physically to literally coming together from a place of both of you desiring the same thing. And what do I mean by that? In a form of communication, when you get into a dialogue with each other that's open, honest, without blame, it then moves you both into a space where if you are able to reignite the spark, that there's an open space for that to happen. Reigniting the spark can come from all sorts of ways, including a date night. If you set aside time in your diary to be together, to remind yourselves, have a conversation about what was the things that attracted you to each other in the first place. What was it that you desired about each other when you first met? What created the spark? Almost revisiting where you were, where you used to be, so that you can find a pathway back to what felt good. It might be that you have moved on and it's other things. A date night doesn't mean to be something that's really elaborate. It could simply be space and time, away from work, away from the children, away from family, away from friends, and a time to be together in a small way. It could simply be an exchange of a massage. It could be where one of the partners treats the other one to a massage, or says, it's your night tonight, what would you like to do? And to be open to what the partner wants to do. It's important to have a really honest, open communication here, because if one person wants to have a massage and the other person doesn't like doing them, then that creates a challenge. So it's really important to have an open and frank and heartful conversation of what you would like, what you desire. And when you are giving, say for instance, if it is a massage to your partner, to be focused on them, not yourself. When you are in the place of giving to that person, to solely and wholly give without the need or the requirement to lead to anything else if they've asked for a massage, to let that be the experience. And if it does lead to anything else and to a more deeper form of physical intimacy and sex, that's okay. But if you start with the massage without the performance, without the requirement, without the feeling it has to go somewhere else, it could be that you spend the night literally holding each other, or doing some practice of looking into each other's eyes, doing a meditation. There are many ways of being together, watching a movie together without being on your phone, without taking calls, having the phones turned off, making sure that your space is pure, to be totally there for one another. It's amazing when there is no distractions, how amazing that reignition of that spark can be. To allow the space to reignite the spark is important for you and for your partner. Sexless relationship, letting go. There is no more S, no more kisses, no more hugs, no more goodnight texts, no more stupid fights, no more I'm sorry, no more making up, no more chances. For some, letting go is the kindest thing for themselves and the relationship and their partner. Sometimes there is no going back, and it is about stepping into a space of reality for yourself, for the other person, because some people don't let go, and they're saying this internally without letting go. No more making up, no more I'm sorry, no more stupid fights, no more hugs. And they're running around in their mind without taking the action. And this can be a very, very debilitating and draining process, because the person is letting go physically, emotionally, mentally. They just haven't left the relationship. They're still there from a physical state of being in the relationship, but the physicalness of the relationship has gone. So to understand when it's okay to let go, because you've both moved on and it's not what it was, what it previously used to be. It's okay to say the relationship is over, and it's okay to move on and move forward to another relationship. The first relationship is self. And if you're not feeling it in that relationship, to let go of the relationship that isn't working will give you space and time to develop a renewed and a rekindled relationship with yourself. Challenges. Some of the biggest challenges in relationship come from the fact that most people enter a relationship in order to get something. They're trying to find someone who's going to make them feel good. In reality, the only way a relationship will last is if you see your relationship as a place that you go to give, that you go to give, and not a place that you go to take. Let me repeat that. The only way a relationship will last is if you see your relationship as a place that you go to give and not a place that you go to take. I felt that this was a really, really key takeaway from this session today, that many people enter relationships to see what they can get from that relationship. But if you go giving, you'll be surprised what you get back. And when you give something, it comes back to you tenfold. And so my invitation for you is to give the relationship everything that you have that you'd want for yourself, because you're actually giving yourself and the relationship too. Moving forward, you don't develop courage by being happy in your relationships every day. You develop it by surviving difficult times and challenging adversity. This is very common for people that have stayed together for many decades, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. The people that stay together and those kinds of relationships, the reason that they've stayed together is that they've evolved in their relationship and they have survived the difficult times, they've survived the joyful times, and they've survived the adversity times. And what they've done is they've found a place to be together in a soulful friendship, intimate relationship, and caring for one another that is beyond just the physical sexual relationship. Thank you for your interest and attention. Please subscribe to USA Global TV and Radio. You can find all of our talking heads under the title Talking Heads playlist. You'll find all of my talking heads under my name, Caroline Heward, my last year's Talking Heads episodes under 2022 under my name, and this year's Talking Heads episodes under Caroline Heward 2023 Talking Heads. Please do reach out to me if I may be of service to you. You can contact me on nomorestress@live.co.uk or call if you're international +44. If you're local, 07523 120 189. I offer a free 30-minute Zoom, Skype, or video messenger consultation. Audio if you're uncomfortable with camera, or call. And it's to look at a series of ways that you can benefit from being open and stepping into a place of awareness. You'll find that the free consultation will be really, really helpful and a great step forward to looking at what other issues that you want to handle in a packaged sessions to go forward and change your relationship with yourself so that you have better and more enriching physical, sexual relationships with others. Thank you very much. Please do remember to reach out. I am here. This is just scratching the surface of what I can help you with. Namaste.